Good work. Okay, well, aloha. Welcome to everyone to Truth in Movies. Today we're going to be doing Stephen King's The Mist. We have broke this one down before, but because of technical difficulties, I wasn't able to keep that one up, and it was done in 2 parts. So we're going to knock this one out of the park tonight. Stephen King. How many people in the chat read Stephen King books or have and found some profound truths that are contained within all of his strange horror stories and whatnot? I have every single time. I could do an entire Truth in Movies just based off of Stephen King's work. We're going to talk about a couple of Stephen King things in this presentation, but welcome everyone in the chat today. Hopefully the audio is good. Give me a thumbs up if everything looks good and sounds good. I'm just going to scooch myself over just a tad here. There we go. There we go. All right, cool. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into this presentation. So, Stephen King's The Mist, for me, is another plasma apocalypse movie. Cartoonified, of course, and sort of showing us some of the elements that we can expect, that we talk about here on my channel all of the time. Ether's in the chat and says, The Stand, Pet Cemetery. Yeah, You know, did he do the Langoliers, or was that Carpenter? I can't remember. We did the Langoliers too. All right, let's jump into today's movie. There's a lot to cover. We're going to talk about cults. We're going to talk about phantazoids. We're going to talk about the mist and atmospheric depressurization. So let's jump right into it. The first scene in this flick shows an artist. Now, this is the main character. The main character is an artist, and he actually makes artwork, movie posters. So that's his job, is to make movie posters. Let's take a close look at what the movie sort of drops to us as far as the breadcrumbs in these movie posters. First and foremost, whenever it comes to the plasma apocalypse, or those in the know of the plasma apocalypse, you'll see a lot of rose symbolism, or it doesn't have to be a rose. It can just be a red flower. Oftentimes, that red circle with petals or leaves that come out of the center of it represents the depressurization point up at the apex of the firmament that opens up and allows all of that red spectrum light to flood in, and that's going to play a huge role in this movie. You also see a boy with a balloon, a red balloon, just like in Stephen King's It. And there is also a clown back here. I'll show you that one here in just a minute. This one's harder to see. I'll show you in a bit, but this one is a portrait of the Shawshank Redemption. Over here is Red, and this is Andy over here. You got the artist working on his next piece. The lightning strikes. He's working during a lightning storm, which allows us to see a bit more of his artwork. Now look over here. Over here, we actually have a poster for Pan's Labyrinth. And we have not broken down Pan's Labyrinth, but all of the labyrinth symbolism, usually a circular labyrinth, and getting to the center of the labyrinth, for me, that I've found that represents a very real aspect to the world that we live in, getting out of this world, getting out of this place, escaping the moving walls, which are the mountains and the structure of our world that actually move and reshape themselves very quickly. Over here you have The Thing. I'm going to talk about The Thing a little later on as well. John Carpenter movie, very excellent presentation. Now, this guy's working during a lightning storm, and then the camera pans into what he's drawing. And he's drawing a picture of one of Stephen King's lengthier books, which is called The Dark Tower, or the Dark Tower series. Now, in the entire Dark Tower series, I have not read the books. I did see the movie, but I've heard enough about it, and it's come up so much in my research. I feel like I have read the book. And for those of you who have read the book, go ahead and let me know if you know this is right on point or not. But the Dark Tower itself represents, this tower right over here, that represents the mountain at the middle of the world, also known as Rupus Nigra, or Mount Meru. Also goes by many other names, Olympus and whatnot. Blake just gave me a donation in the chat. Hey, thanks, Blake. So Rupus Nigra right over here, Mount Meru, and then you have the rose symbolism. Once again, you have like the sky and some sort of a door in the sky, or a portal in the sky, a stargate in the sky. In the Dark Tower series, you have the same concept written in fiction, where you have this massive dark or black tower that rises up into the heavens, and it's a central point to all of the different realms, all of the different worlds. There's many different worlds in this series, and The Mist is going to touch on this concept as well, there being a multiverse, or what I like to call a fractalverse. So he's showing us the Dark Tower. He's showing us Rupus Nigra. Now, in the book, the Dark Tower is almost sentient. It sort of puts out this signal and calls these certain characters or players to it. They feel this need to come to this Dark Tower, this black mountain, which represents the Lodestone Mountain or the Magnetic Mountain at the middle of the world. And then the lightning strikes, the thunder rumbles. He stops his work, he looks over at the storm, and the lights go out. All plasma apocalypse symbolism. You know, it doesn't take any stretch of the imagination when you've read all the different religious materials, the different myths and legends that refer to the lights going out in our world one day, where the sun turns off in the middle of the day, the moon goes dark, the stars fall from the sky, and then he looks out of his window and he sees this, a rainstorm. And this is the quintessential storm. This is how oftentimes the movies let you know that they're talking about the apocalypse. This is the perfect storm, symbolically speaking. It's usually an electrical storm. It's a very heavy storm. It is the time storm, the millennial monsoon, you could call it, millennial maelstrom. And then that brings us to the title with all of this electricity, a heavy rain pouring down everywhere. He's looking out of his window and we have the title, The Mist. We'll see the mist in a minute. We'll talk about what I believe the mist really actually is. So we've got a rainstorm. We've got the lights going out. We've got all of this symbolism. Now, when we watch these movies, or when I watch them, it's much like deciphering hieroglyphics. They're just pictures. When you put these pictures all together, you build a context for a message that's being given to the viewer. Hieroglyphics were not to just entertain. They weren't just there to look at the pretty pictures. Oh, look at that one. That one's pretty. Oh, look at that one. That one's pretty. But when you put the context together, the wise, those who have the eyes to see or the ears to hear, they receive a message, right? Now, whether it's done purposefully or whether it has to be done because everything is resonating the Earth's energy or the Akashic records, the ether itself, the energy is reverberating in and throughout our world. So I feel it's almost like we can't help but to share the truth, and the truth comes out. It always comes out. And one of those mediums is through the movies. Now the family gathers together. This storm is so bad that they get in front of the window and they're watching it. The storm is almost looming on the other side of their window. Their window here represents our firmament, the glass ceiling above our heads that holds back this cosmic storm that seems to just wait for the right time to break through the window and to make its appearance and cause chaos and destruction and forever change our world, or at least for quite some time. Now, here's the studio. The lightning lights up, which gives us a good in-depth view. All of these pictures are put here purposefully, so let's check them out since the lightning's helped us out. Here we have the Shawshank Redemption. We should break that one down. That's one of my favorite movies ever. I love that one. Here's Red. Here's Andy. There's some other people. We've got a dummy, and it's right next to the kid with the red balloon, right? And then here is a clown. So this is the Pennywise symbolism of the movie It. And then we've got the Thing. We've got Pan's Labyrinth over here. The lightning strikes, and suddenly a tree bursts through this window. The window breaks. And I've said this many different times. When you see a window breaking or glass shattering, or sometimes it's a small version, they'll give you a little snow globe that falls onto the ground and explodes. All of this glass shattering, window breaking symbolism represents the firmament of our world, the dome of our world breaking open, which is what ushers in the opening of our world, otherwise known as the apocalypse, right? All right, cool. So the tree bursts in through the window, and there's just destruction from the storm. So this is where we go next. They wake up the next morning. They're checking out all of the damage that's been done from this storm. And then this guy's wife says that all the food's going to go bad. When the apocalypse comes, the food will go bad. People don't know how to grow their own food. They don't know how to find their own food. The only place most people in these civilized countries know how to get food is to go to the grocery store. That's the only way they know how to get food. If they don't know how to get to the grocery store, then many people are going to starve to death or turn to cannibalism or get sick and die because they eat the wrong things, that they just get hungry, and they don't study these things. They don't realize that they can go almost a month without eating anything. They might be hungry, might get weak for, at first for a bit, but you can go quite some time without eating food. Now, water is a different story under these conditions, how we live in the world that we live in now. He says, well, I'll hit the store before it all gets bought out. That's another thing. And we saw this recently, in the last few years or so with different crazy things that have been happening in our world. Everyone rushes to the store. Anytime something bad happens or anytime there's some rumor or gossip of something that could happen, everybody rushes to the store. They buy up everything. And then those of us who take our time and just shop normally, we get there and the shelves are empty, right? So this is why it's a good idea to prepare ahead of time. When you do go do your shopping or whatever, grab an extra jar of peanut butter or whatever, whatever rice and stuff, like whatever stuff that you can get that this will last me a while and I can just sort of store it off to the side. You don't have to eat it right away, and you can resupply whenever you go. Once those things go bad, check their dates and stuff and resupply. Now they go out to the lake, this lake at the bottom of a mountain, and they look across and they see this mist that's just creeping down from the mountain, and it's rolling over the waters, and they're like, that's weird. That's a strange mist. They've seen mist before, but they make a big deal about this particular mist. So this guy hops, he's like, I don't know, I'm not the weatherman, I don't know what it is. They don't think twice about it. And that's a theme that you'll see throughout this movie, and that's a theme you'll see throughout your own life and the real world. People don't think twice. They don't consider things. They don't think of the implications or what might be the bigger picture of what's going on. And so oftentimes the apocalypse sneaks right up on people. They're not reading the omens. They're not watching for the signs. On their way to the store, this guy picks up his neighbor who's a lawyer. We'll meet him in a bit. He says, for a moment there last night, damn, I thought I took a picture. But he says, for a moment there last night, I thought we were going to head to Oz. He makes a reference to the Wizard of Oz and how there's this storm that sucks up Dorothy into the heavens and takes her to another world. That's all symbolic for this perfect storm, this world storm. And whenever the sky opens, that is the time when the heavens are open, and it's seen as God opening the east gate, or the gate that's up above us, opens up, and people, animals, plants and stuff, they get sucked up and out. Or if you have the right technology, you can fly right out of this world and visit the fractalverse, visit the other worlds that surround us. You can also go down into the world through the trunk of the Norse tree Yggdrasil, or Rupus nigra, which is a plasma volcano and opened inside of it. It's hollow inside. All right, so he gets to the grocery store where everyone's there stocking up and resupplying. And then he talks to the cashier girl, and she says, yeah, everything else, welcome to the Dark Ages. So that, all the power's out, or some of the power's out. They can't use their credit cards or whatever. And she says, welcome to the Dark Ages. This is an acknowledgement that this is what the Dark Ages were, that there was some sort of cataclysm that happened the world across, most people only recognizing it in their local areas, not thinking, I wonder if this is happening in Japan. I wonder if this is happening in Australia. I wonder if this is happening in these other places. Thankfully, we can use comparative mythology and compare historic records together to see and build the case, asking ourselves the question, did something happen that ushered in the Dark Ages? Did something happen to usher in, strange events and weird anomalous times that were unlike any other time before or after them? Yes, I believe that there is strong evidence to suggest that there was a reset during the Dark Ages, or before the Dark Ages, that led up to them for 1,000 years, and then afterwards another one that had happened. So this one's kind of funny. So you got this guy, Ollie. He's working at the store and he's bagging people's groceries. The only reason I wanted to point this out is because some people, if you're younger, might not know what this is. A long time ago at the store, they used to give away free bags for people just out of the kindness of their hearts. They gave people bags to put their groceries in. And then sometimes they had persons working at the store that would actually do that work for you. And they would put your stuff in your bag and they would do all this work for you because you're paying them. And it was really nice a long time ago. If you go back even further, they had full service gas stations. A team of 5 or 6 guys would run out and they would refill your oil, they would wipe your windows, they'd put your gas in your car, they'd top you off, and it was different times, right? Things are changing these days. I just wanted to point that out. Now, the friendly bagger, Ollie, looks over and sees a customer, Mrs. Carmody. Now, Mrs. Carmody, we'll meet her in a minute, but you can see he's got a friendly, happy look on his face. He's like, hey, good morning, Mrs. Carmody. So he's portraying a good person, somebody with a good vibes, right? A good spirit. Miss Carmody comes in and she says, with lines like these, I don't know how good it is, but I guess we'll have to make do. Now, believe it or not, she believes herself to be an outstanding person, a great person. And he is evil. He's a bad guy. Matter of fact, everyone in the store are basically evil and bad to her. This is another theme that's going to come up later on in the movie. Now, she takes off. The main character starts reading the newspaper, but if you look closely, you'll notice the big words are in English. The Castle Rock Times, which, by the way, Castle Rock is a euphemism for Mount Meru. These towers, these plasma volcanoes, but specifically Rupus Nigra is like a castle, and it holds Sophia. It holds the earth energy or the recorded electrical information within the earth, which is known as the princess or the princess power or the earth energy, Sophia, etc., and so on and so forth. And that's why the princess is always locked away in a tower or in a castle or held under the castle, right? This is all symbolic of the earth energy that goes down into the world while the earth charges, only to be released from the castle, whenever the people go looking for her or whatnot. Now, it says here, electric storm, largest one on record. This is all symbolic for the plasma apocalypse. But when we zoom in, we can see that the actual article itself, lorem ipsum dolor sit amet consecutor, this is Latin. This is interesting. You know why they put Latin up there? Because they don't actually want to take the time to write out some fictitious article or whatever. So they use these Latin phrases that basically say this is just empty filler or whatnot, but it says it in Latin. The reason they do that is because people will see that, they won't notice, and they'll just say, oh, it must be a story, and you'll put the dots together yourself. You'll think that this is a real story, but it's in Latin. Latin means hidden. It means esoteric. It's where our word italics come from. When a word is written in italics, it means there's a hidden meaning. There's something more being said with that word. And that's also, it also corresponds to the country Italy, which is the same as italics, the root of italics. It is hidden, and it comes from these people who are hidden from view, right? There's certain groups of people and whatnot that come from certain places that are phantom islands that are hidden from view. It's all related. Now, we meet this woman. She's an old school teacher, and she's just kind of having side conversation, but they put it down there for us to read, and so it's very important. She says, you'd think educating children would be more of a priority in this country. And she's sort of complaining about how the government spends money on military and stuff. So she's a school teacher. She believes in the system, but this is twofold. You'd think that educating children would be more of a priority in this country, right? I mean, really educating the children. I mean, really, listen, who are the best educators? The parents. Naturally would be the best educators, and you are, if you're a parent, by the way. You are the best educator for your children. I don't care if you send them to public school or private school or you believe in academics or whatever. You're still the person that they look up to, that they emulate, that they be like, that they want to be like. They copy you. They act just like little versions of you. So no matter what academics or intelligence or knowledge they get from the school system, this is the education we get in this country. So every single grown-up, every single adult that has a child, you're a teacher, whether you like it or not. All right. Even when you're around children or even other humans, other grown-ups, because I don't really believe in grown-ups. I believe everybody is actually a child. Because I believe we used to live for hundreds of years, and that now we're just basically children that age quickly. You know what I mean? And that will be restored too after the next apocalyptic cycle. So she says, you'd think that educating children would be more of a priority in this country, but you'd be wrong. Now, the other side of that is that the actual education or indoctrination that's placed upon and forced upon nearly everybody here in the United States. I don't know where it is in your countries, how it is there, but they don't care about actual useful information to share with people. They don't care about teaching people how to survive, how to take care of themselves. As you'll see later on in this movie, people don't even know how to use a gun. They don't know how to pull a button and pull a trigger or whatever. People are stupid. Okay, I'll just be direct and blunt. I'm sorry, but most of the world from where I sit is dumb. They're all dumb. They're like our intelligence level has just dropped. And all these dumb people are holier than thou. They're high and mighty. They sit on a high horse. They look down on everyone. They're entitled. They think that they know something, but they know next to nothing. They're just drones and robots and sleepwalkers in the world. And they just bump into things and they walk in circles all day long. Philosophy is dead in this world, which is another reason why I like doing this particular presentation. Now, while they're waiting to get their groceries, they're all waiting in line, a siren goes off. We have a warning. This siren is a warning. Hey, that something bad is about to happen. It's actually like a military siren, right? Or like a bomb siren or something. The earth gives us plenty of warnings before the apocalypse comes. That's the first question everyone always asks me. When's it going to happen? When's the apocalypse going to happen? You'll know if you're paying attention. You will know it's near. That's why they say the end is near, the end is nigh. The people that hold up signs like that, you see them all the time. People usually make fun of them in the movies, but these are people that are reading the signs. They're listening to Mother Nature. They're listening to the signs and reading the signs of God, if that's how you'd like to see it. And they know, just like watching your wife, her belly gets bigger and bigger. Her birth pains get closer together. Her contractions get more and more intense. The earth does that too, until finally the trumpets blow. And the trumpets will blow in this world in the form of the depressurization of the atmosphere and all of the different cavernous openings, letting out massive amounts of rushing air all at the same time as the underworld depressurizes also. So the underworld depressurizes. Where all those gases go? They come to us. So we get a worse apocalypse actually than the underworld does, at least during this next cycle. Now this guy runs up out of nowhere. Once these sirens go off, he's bloodied. He runs in his store. He says, something in the mist. Everyone gets scared. He says, something in the mist took John Lee. Whoever that is, I don't know who John Lee is. Something in the mist took John Lee. So there's this mist that's starting to roll over. That mist way back from the lake rolls over this whole grocery store parking lot right here. And this is the actual grocery store right behind me where they are. This is the pharmacy, which will come into play in a minute. But this mist rolls over everywhere. It's a thick, heavy fog that just envelops everything in its path, making it nearly impossible to see anything. And this guy says something in the mist took his buddy. Now this was interesting. They all start standing behind the window once more, right? Watching this fog. And you'll notice the checkout lines. This one says 5, 4, and this one says 2. On the side, these ones have no numbers. Later on in the movie, they added the numbers on the side. But right here in the movie, the only number that has a double number on the side is the number 3, which gives us 33. So at 33, the fog rolls in. 33, according to the legends, is the circumference in miles of Mount Meru. This was written on many maps in the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages and medieval times, whenever they actually portrayed a circular island at the center of the world at the North Pole. And written in ancient Italian and Latin, oftentimes it would say, here lies Mount Meru. It's 33 French miles around. So here's the 33 connection. 33 implies survivors, people that go to the mountain of 33, or the mountain that's 33 miles around. So these are all of the survivors of this apocalyptic event. Now, everyone starts to speculate. Everyone starts to come up with theories and ideas. This guy says, some kind of chemical explosion has to be a pollution cloud, somebody says. This woman, Mrs. Carmody, says, it's death. this is interesting. This is what has happened in the past. People, through their own perception filters, which is a term I borrow from Doctor Who, they interpret significant historic events that happen. They interpret it on a local scale, on a personal scale. Not many of them will think this is happening worldwide. Many people often believe this is just regional. This is just in my particular area. But what if it's not? There's been many times when it's not been that. So she says it's death, a poison cloud, death, a factory exploded, right? Everyone's just coming up with these different ideas from their different perspectives. The thing is, they're all right. Every single one of them. All of these people that put forth these different ideas, they're all holding on to a puzzle piece, to a little fractured piece of the bigger picture, of the truth. If they would come together and work together, then they would have a better idea of the actual bigger picture by just like putting a puzzle together, right? Now, all of a sudden, there's this huge earthquake. All the lights start to shake. Everybody's falling down. Everything's rumbling back and forth. The lights fall from the ceiling, which is also symbolic of the stars falling, the luminaries falling from the heavens or whatever, which, by the way, cannot happen according to the academic model. You can't have all the stars in the universe just for no reason crashing into the earth, you know what I mean? If they're as far away as they say and they're the size as they say and stuff, that cannot happen. So for those of you who do believe in the Bible and you also side with academics, I strongly suggest you take a look at this whole stars falling from the sky thing, right? Many people will say, oh no, it's not the star, it's just a meteor shower or whatever. They didn't know what meteor showers were back then. Meteor showers have happened all the time. Okay, people know what a comet is. They know what a meteor is or whatever. There may be some that don't, but there's no, I just can't believe that everybody in the world doesn't know what meteors are or whatever, right? Or at least these other lights. The stars, the actual stars that look fixed in the sky will move about and they will leave their places and they will streak down to the earth whenever all of this otherworldly cosmic plasma comes in through these weak points in the dome. It bursts through all these weak points and all that plasma goes right through it just like a sieve or a strainer, which, by the way, that's going to come up also in just a bit. All right, so the earthquake's happening, everything's shaking back and forth. We will have worldwide earthquakes if this is correct, right? Let's suppose that it's correct, or we don't have to suppose it's correct. Let's just theorize. Let's just suppose that there is a hollow earth under our feet. There's an entire world down below our feet, and it has its own pressure system. It has its own atmosphere. It has all of these gases and that's being created and added to it. That means that the world we live in is going to increase in gas and pressure. When that pressure is released, it comes up here. All of that pressure release is going to cause the earth to crack open and to move back and forth or to reel back and forth like a drunkard, as is described in the Bible. I'm going to use a few Bible passages while we talk about this, just because it's strong throughout this movie. The biblical symbolism at the very least, but it's not limited to Christianity. This is in all of the religions. If you pay attention, they have many similarities. So they say that was an earthquake. Yes, an earthquake. Very good. Now, a worldwide earthquake will cause our world to become muddy very quick. All of the water will raise up to the top. It'll mix with all of the surface layer and the soil and whatnot, and we will live in a bog. We will live in a swamp. All right. There will be a very clay-like, nature to the different parts of the surface world or whatever. And there will be floods of mud all over the place. This has come to be realized in, my little corner of the truther community as the mud floods. There's clearly a time, especially if you look back around the Dark Age time, people have excavated entire buildings and structures and stuff that are just buried in mud, and they don't really understand where this mud came from or whatnot, or what could have caused all of this mud the world across to just cake so many different objects and bury so many buildings and things. So this woman says it's the end of days. She's right. It is the end of days. This is the end of how we keep track of time in our world, because we keep track of time through luminaries and how quickly things degrade, or what's called entropy, right? Entropy is, in short and in layman's terms, entropy is basically the degradation of physical objects in the world we live in, right? Or aging. That's also one way that we feel and experience time. That entropy, those entropic conditions, I believe that's how you say that, I believe are quickening, that they're actually acting exponentially or in an exponential manner, which is speeding up the feeling of how fast time is passing. Also, the luminaries getting brighter and moving quicker about the sky, and it's very difficult for us to keep track of our days. But it's quite actually, and it will be one day, the end of days. It will be a reset. It will be a restarting of all of things that we have come to know and accept as our natural world. It will become a supernatural world for all of us. To some people, that might scare you. If it does, and you're interested in this topic, I recommend researching. You can start here on my channel or my website. I've got a couple of books I've written about it. The more I've found, the more that I've researched and learned about these things, the more it's eradicated any kind of fear. I'm excited now. Actually, I'm quite the opposite. And that's from knowledge. That's from gaining knowledge, right? In the Bible, it actually says, my people perish from a lack of knowledge, or due to a lack of knowledge, not having any knowledge, just being ignorant. And actually, it says that in the end times, just before this event, people would choose to be ignorant. They called it willingly ignorant. So now they say, so the main character over here, he looks over and he sees that there's this little group that's all talking. They say, we need to find out what's happening. They're kind of like whispering to each other. These little factions start to develop. These little groups start to develop within the grocery store, which is now, the movie is showing us, a microcosmic version of our entire world. This entire grocery store represents Earth. All of it. It's just showing, it's just taking everything in the world and it's squishing it down into utter symbolism. Just quintessential, this is all symbolic of your entire world, all the people in the world, all of the structures in the world and stuff. And it's all shown to you on the microscopic scale. And they do that oftentimes too. Sometimes they'll do it again and again. A good example of this is, man, there's many good examples. All of the like Ant-Man movies, the quantum realm and all of that, all the Dr. Seuss movies, all that type of stuff. Any movie that takes place in one room or one house or one building or whatever, that room, that house, that building represents the whole world quite often. And it's just shrunk down in size, basically. Now, main character goes back into the back to get some supplies, and he's like, he starts coughing and stuff. There's something wrong with the air. He gets over and he sees an actual poison gas cloud in the form of this generator that's clogged up from the outside. Now, he puts a mask on. He gets out a rag and he puts it over his face. Nobody needs to tell him, put a mask on. It's very obvious and evident when the time comes that it's a good idea for you to put a mask on. If you look around and there's nothing obvious screaming at you, like people aren't coughing up blood and dying and people are sick and clearly, have the pox or whatever kind of, I don't know, sickness, comes about, then that's up to you. But this guy uses common sense. He's like, I don't need a damn person to tell me what to do right now. I need to protect myself. Now, how does this relate to the actual cyclical apocalypse and cataclysms that happen to this world? It's the gases. It's all of these gases that seep up and out of our world. There's many different kinds, from methane to nitrogen, nitrous oxide, oxygen, and many other types of gases. These gases are not just going to do you a favor and just immediately mix into the air so that you can just breathe them all safely. They're going to create pockets and clouds of these different types of gases that will roll over the land and just follow the different currents and stuff like that. And they will have different effects on people, sometimes creating spontaneous dancing or muscle spasms and stuff. Other times it will make people laugh, and they'll laugh uncontrollably. They'll have different effects. Now, because the lights are out, he takes out his cell phone and he turns it on. This is back in 2007. So he's got this little Nokia cell phone and he's trying to look around with the light. He puts it to his forehead and he hears this metallic door, these bay doors behind him creaking. The moment he puts this cell phone light to his forehead, he starts to hear these doors creaking. He keeps it there. He turns around to look at the doors and the doors start bending inward as if something is attracted to not just him, but the electronic device that he just turned on, that he's holding on to, right? I'll show you what's on the other side and what it symbolizes. It symbolizes a couple different things. And then it says there's banging. There's banging. Also knocking. at the door. There's knocking at the door that seems to be attracted to his cell phone or his electronic device, right? Remember, if this is seen through the lens of the plasma apocalypse, this is all interconnected. Electricity is an integral part of the world that we live in, and an integral part of ourselves. So he leaves that area. He goes inside. He's like, I heard something. You guys hear that sound? They're like, no, what sound? He says, it's like something was pressing against the door. Something was knocking on the door. Now, there's a book called The Tommyknockers by Stephen King. Here's the poem that is actually written throughout the book. It begins the book as well. It says, late last night and the night before, Tommyknockers knocking at the door. I want to go out. Don't know if I can, because I'm so afraid of the Tommyknocker man. Now, there's legends about these Tommyknockers that extend far before Stephen King's time, and they're sort of cartoonified and portrayed as pixies or elves or dwarves or sprites or goblins or things of that nature. Actual physical humanoid creatures. That's what humans typically do. We project ourselves onto strange and anomalous, things that happen throughout time, ghosts and all that stuff. But the Tommyknockers, right? This is and can be plasma or electricity. Just like you notice that door is metal too, right? So these electricity, it's knocks on the door, right? And this is also a form of biblical history in the Old Testament, whenever it gave us the Passover, the story of the Passover, the original one, or one of the older ones, going back to the times of Moses. And the Hebrews were told, go into your houses and let the spirit of death pass by. And the spirit of death hovered throughout the alleyways and the streets and went by all the houses. And they were told, physically close the shutters to your windows, to your doors. Make a physical barrier so that this spirit of death cannot come in. Now, if that spirit of death was attracted, it might zap, it might knock on the door or the window or whatever it might be, right? So these are what I believe the Tommyknockers actually physically are, at least one version of them. Now, they're still in the back. He brings them all back. He's like, listen, you guys don't believe me? And that's another thing. You'll see this a lot. People learn something or they experience something, and when they try to tell others about it who have not learned that or who have not experienced that or just don't believe that, there's separation, there's division, and people start calling each other liars, and they point fingers and stuff. So they go in to check it out. And this kid right here, his name is Norm. He represents normal people. His name is Norm for a reason. He says, I'll go outside into that poison mist that everyone's dying in, and I'll go unclog the generator so that we don't have all this poison smoke in here and we can turn on the lights and stuff. And he says, listen, you open that door and something gets in here. And he says, would you just shut the heck up already? And he just gets this attitude, right? This is that bass vibration. I don't know how many people that watch this movie recognize the vibes that the different characters give off. There's a good vibe. Like that character, Ollie, he puts off a good vibe. And then there's characters in the movie, they don't have to tell you that they're bad guys. They just are. This guy doesn't need to have a patch over one eye and, a hook in his hand or whatever for you to know this kid's a bad guy. He's got bad energy. He's got bad vibes. And what happens usually in horror movies to people that are sinners or have bad vibes or whatever, these monsters come and eat them. They come and destroy them, right? So he's like, would you just shut the heck up already? And then this guy too, he starts getting an attitude. He says, I'm sick of all your bull stuff. You count your teeth, mister, right? Because this guy's playing the voice of reason. And this is my own personal experience when I've tried to be the voice of reason, or thought that I was, in different groups and gatherings, or even to just individuals. Those who are not willing, those who are stuck in their ways, become angry. It's like they get backed into the corner. It's like they get called out and they're exposed. That energy, that evil energy inside of them is exposed, and its natural instinct is to become angry, right? There is also something that is amplifying this anger, this dormant anger or evil or base mentality, however you want to see it, that's inside of many people. It amplifies it. There's something energetically in this world that resonates throughout everything, all the animals, all the people, everything. So if it becomes amplified itself, the energy of the world, then we also in turn become amplified. Our spirits, our souls become amplified. And so that's what's happening. I call this plasma possession. You'll see this oftentimes in horror movies or something, when you have a group of people that are all stuck together somewhere, and then they all start kind of getting frustrated, and then inevitably they start yelling at one another, trying to fight each other, even though, you know, they're in it together. This is plasma possession. This is people's inner skeletons coming out, right? This is the point of no return, spiritually speaking. And this is why many of the world's religious materials highly recommend that you work on that spirit or that energy, because the time will come when you can't choose any longer. You can't help it. You're just going to be whatever you are on the inside. You can no longer hold it back. You can no longer hide it or pretend. It will come out, and that will be full on who you are. Hey, I just got a new member in the chat. We got Cocos Errors in the chat. Welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. I don't know why my alerts don't seem to be working right now, but hopefully they do. I put them over off on the side. I've been doing some upgrades on my channel, just kind of working on stuff over the weekend, so I hope that there's an alert for you. If not, I'll just have to look into that and fix that up. But welcome, Cocos Error. Oh, there it is right there. All right, sweet. It does work. All right, cool. Well, hey, everybody, let's give a huge emoji applause to Cocos Error in the chat for joining the Good Vibe Tribe, and we'll move on. So they get mad at each other. Now they open up these doors, right? And the mist kind of comes in creepily. That kid, Norm, the normal kid, he peers out into the mist and he looks out into it. And these other guys that have sort of a base, evil, kind of selfish mentality, you know, real basic people or whatever. He's like, so, any boogeymen? And he's making fun of them. This is what people do, right? If they don't get angry, they tell jokes that are at the expense of others. In this case, it's this guy, and at the expense of this guy over here. Hey, Kenny, LOL. Thank you so much for your support in the chat. I appreciate you. That was very kind of you. All right. So he's like, any boogeyman? Ha 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 ha. This is that jock kind of mentality. You know what I mean? People that don't have kindness or love in their hearts, that's what they turn to. They either turn to making fun of others, insulting others, putting others down, and it's their own way of feeling better if they put other people down. It's a very simple concept, right? And I'm sure you've all been through it. But he says boogeyman. So let's look up the word boogeyman. Now, it turned into boogie. Originally, it was bogeyman, right? Why would it be boogie? Because it's the jitterbug. It's the dancing man, or it's this energy that's related to this dancing plague or dancing disease and stuff. The boogeyman. It's not really boogie, though. It's bogey. Words get messed up over time. The further forward we go in time, the more the Tower of Babel effect, you know, takes hold of our language and how we talk to each other, and our words and our vocabulary and stuff just get lost in translation. But let's look it up. Thankfully, we can study etymology, the word origins. Bogeyman says here, haunting specter, an object of fear. Now that's two words together, the bogeyman. So in order to break that down further, we need to see the word bogey, right? Let's look up bogey. Now, if we look up the word bogey, it says here, bogey, World War II aviator slang for unidentified aircraft, presumably hostile, also called Foo Fighters and UFOs and things of that nature too, right? Strange phenomena that people don't know what it is, mysterious things, phantom things, probably ultimately from bogelboge, and then a dialect variant from Middle English, booge or booga, a frightening specter, and then it says, see the word bug. So the root, or one possible strong root for bogey, is the word bug. Well, that's interesting. It says here, if we look it up even further, the word bug, Middle English word probably is connected to the Scottish bogiel, goblin, or bugbear. An obsolete Welsh word, bwg, which is bug, and ghost, or goblin. So this word bug is being associated with specters and spirits and ghosts and haunting things and phantoms. Some speculate that these words are from a root meaning goat, which it says to see the word buck. Buck, bug, right? It's all about that dialect change, the accent changes and whatnot. So buck could be related to the word bug. And it says it may represent originally a goat-like specter. What's a goat-like specter? That's a ghost or apparition or monster or creature that has horns. That's why the bucks, the goats, the deer, etc., and so on and so forth, they have horns, right? The boogeyman, Krampus, these ancient hairy creatures related to the elves, actually. I believe that these are actually just elves that got older, when they go through puberty and stuff. They go through the different stages of puberty than we do. The elven race will stay young for a very long time. So you can have a young elf that's in charge of the people, or they would call them El or Elu, not just elf. They didn't always call them elf. That's just a new way that we call that. But the elves, because they live for so long, if you have an elf that lives for like 1,000 years, you can imagine after they've gone through puberty a couple of times, the hair just starts to grow on their body. They start to grow their tails out, which humans do too. They start to grow their horns, which humans do too. Usually when they get older in age, their ears continue to grow. As they get older, their noses get bigger and stuff, and they start looking kind of like Krampus. Now, does that mean that they're evil? No, it doesn't. But there's a strong association with these particular, creatures and evil, right? Santa is also an elf, right? So he would be a younger version of this. Krampus would be his older brother, right? Just going through an extra puberty. So these are the bug men, the boogeymen, we could say, right? We can make the case for that, the Buckmen. And they have horns, basically. These are the ancient gods. These are the ancient, they're humanoids, really. They're not gods, but they're humanoids that live for a very long time. They live eternally in comparison to today's short lifespans, okay? And it's just a natural part of their body that just grows. Oftentimes, they're portrayed as these pasty white, albino-looking gods or angels or whatever that dropped down from the heavens, the fallen angels, the Nephilim. Anyways, so back on track to the story. Now, as this kid, Norm, the Normie, which is actually what they call him in the movie is Normie, he looks down and he sees the fog is coming in and there's something in the fog. He starts to freak out and a tentacle shoots through, wraps around his foot. He's freaking out that more tentacles are starting to come in and it drags him out of the door, right? When the door opens, things get sucked out of it. There's some symbolism happening there, but there's these weird, otherworldly tentacles that just come in and start grabbing and latching onto him. No one knows what they are. No one knows where they come from. We'll talk about that in a minute. Ollie grabs a hatchet to try to cut the tentacle off. Everyone's trying to rescue Norm. This is what happens to normies. When you don't study and you just think everything's a joke and you just want to laugh at clear apocalyptic omens and signs, you're probably going to get caught up in the apocalypse. So, this could be you one day. Hopefully not you. You know what I mean? There's people out there I like. I don't want to see this happen to you guys. However, there's people out there I don't like, and I'm looking forward to this happening to many of you. No offense, but the apocalypse is a cleansing. It's a cleansing of this world. The world's full of bad things, evil things, horrible and vile things. We need an apocalypse, in my personal opinion. So this guy, all the tentacles wrap around him. He gets sucked back into the fog, reaches out for help, but sorry, bye, Normie. See you later, buddy. Enjoy the fog monsters, right? Which are phantazoids, quite often, by the way. When our world depressurizes, when the atmosphere depressurizes and the dome opens up and the underworld releases its electromagnetic barriers, that's when otherworldly creatures that I call phantazoids may and do come into this world. They may float down safely because of the increased buoyancy. They may rise up from below. But there will be monsters, and these are fog monsters that you see portrayed all the time. Oftentimes, they'll also, cast a red light on the fog or something. That's the color spectrum shift. But anyways, I digress. Let's continue on. So they all just witnessed this, and he's like, what do we tell people? We just watched Lovecraftian tentacle monster rip this normal kid out of the store or whatever. How do we say this to people? How do we describe this? How do we tell the story? I ask myself that all the time. How do we convince them that this Lovecraftian tentacle monster is real? He says, Ollie, what the hell were those tentacles? What were they? And what were they even attached to? So this is where it splits. Symbolism sometimes stacks upon symbolism in the movie. On one hand, you have actual physical monsters that have physical appendages, and they're oftentimes, they have gigantism as well. Okay. Giants exist. They have existed. There's less of them today. In the ancient world, there wasn't just giant animals and plants. There was also gigantic humans we call giants. Today, unfortunately, they're the stuff of myths and legends. There were gigantic people. I don't mean tall people. I don't mean people that were like 7 feet or 8 feet or 10 feet. I mean giant people that roamed about. Huge, gigantic people, 30 feet tall, probably. That's as tall as I'm going. I mean, I've seen a lot of evidence, but I'm not closing the door on how tall. I'm just saying giants existed, period. For me, okay? It's a period for me. Like, I'm convinced. Or it's compelling. The evidence is compelling. Giants existed. But let's get back to this question of how do you describe this, and what were these tentacles, and what were they attached to? What were these tentacles? What are they attached to? They're attached to Cthulhu. Cthulhu is I don't know. It's the character Cthulhu mainly comes from H.P. Lovecraft, who was an author about 100 years ago that wrote some science fiction type horror, or cosmic horror, which is some of my favorite horror, about these ancient ones that lived around the earth and outside and in the cosmos, and sometimes in the bottoms of the ocean or within the earth itself. Titanic, monstrous beings that, may have or may not have been actually physical. Cthulhu was one of the main ones, right? It's from the Call of Cthulhu. Now, Cthulhu typically is, I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to be direct. This is a reality, but it's cartoonified. It's one of my favorite words to use on my channel. This is a cartoon version of a reality that we experience and witness and see. People will see tentacles writhing around in the sky, usually red color. That's why you have this red color that's often associated with, these beings' eyes lighting up and stuff, right? But this is also just a face that has tentacles all the way around it. This is where we get much of our ancient mythic symbolism from. Today, we also have the spaghetti monster. Now, people joke around about the spaghetti monster. There's actually like a mock religion, and I don't know how serious they take themselves. It started off as a farce, as a joke, that there was the actual Pastafarians, as they call themselves, and it is kind of funny. However, the joke is going to be on them one day when they realize there really is a spaghetti monster. There really are toroidal fields. There really is plasma that moves about and creates self-contained plasmic balls, which are the meatballs, and these are all just strands of plasma or plasma filaments and stuff that descend from the heavens, from the sky, and people see that as an entity or a god or whatever. So that's the origins of things that are just completely seem to be fabricated. But the reality is nothing's fabricated. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything has a root that goes back to truth. Everything comes from somewhere. There's grains of truth within all of it. It's just tied in knots. When we start to untie those knots, then we start to see the reality behind it. Medusa is specifically on the shield of Zeus, which is the inverted dome at the top of the firmament, which is called the Aegis, or the Aegis, you could say as well. There's different pronunciations, but that's why oftentimes in ancient times, Medusa's face was all there was. There was no Medusa's body or anything. We added that as a projection of ourselves. This is not a real face of a real woman. This is a depressurization point up in the atmosphere that's at the center point of a larger circle, which is an inverted dome. This is the doom shape, or the dome shape above us. And whenever it opens up and the sky depressurizes, all that plasma, or wonderful serpents or fiery serpents or whatnot, dragons and stuff, worms, they will undulate down around this circle. They'll spiral around it, and they will come down into our world and cause a lot of change, in some very serious ways. Now, let's pull it back to reality. Let's take it back to the world that we live in. If you watch my Omen segment, you recognize what this is, right? In academics, they call this Steve. They say it's a phenomenon. I don't know what it is. Oh, it's weird. It's like the aurora borealis, but it's not. This is a plasma filament. These are starting to reappear. These are starting to make their appearance once again. These reappearing is a gigantic, huge omen in the world we live in to people like myself, where the old ways, the old world, the olden times are starting to mix with those of the future or the modern world or whatever. And these are all going to get more and more prolific, stronger and stronger, until eventually there's many of these in the sky. And these are deadly. These are dangerous. These are not like terrestrial energy that shoots up out of those cavernous systems and volcanoes that are more of a cold plasma that you could probably touch and interact with and stimulate your cellular regeneration. These are killers. These are petrifiers. These will drag themselves, or they are of those that drag, or the dragon, right? They will drag themselves across the land and skip around or split and appear to actually walk across the land and stuff. These are ancient titans. These are ancient monsters and creatures that people wrote stories about, that flew across the sky and moved about from place to place, sometimes just disappearing out of nowhere because it's light, and sometimes splitting and becoming the Hydra and things of that nature. They're very real. They're plasma filaments. They're plasma tentacles. I like to call them tentacles because it sounds scary and fun and cool. And then, you know, I'm a nerd like that. But so anyways, these guys actually saw tentacles. They go back into the store. And remember, he's trying to say, like, how am I going to convince everybody? I mean, tell the truth. Like, don't think about how you should say it or how you should convince them, or, you know, stop playing chess in your mind with the truth. Just go in there and just say, oh my God, everyone, this just happened. Oh my God, let me just tell you, let me just be transparent, right? It causes much less problems when you don't live in fear, okay? If you automatically are like, oh, but if I tell this person, oh, but what if they react poorly? Oh, but what if this and that? And then they'll read that on you. They'll read that there's something going on with you. Why are you different? Why are you acting all weird? And then they'll think something's wrong. And maybe you're lying. Maybe this and that, right? It's not a good idea. That can actually cause more problems. I've found. This is me speaking personally, okay? We saw tentacles. He tells the black guy who's the lawyer, his neighbor, and he goes up to the other ones and he's like, yeah, it's true. And he's like, what? He's looking at everybody. Now, this is me. Okay, I'm him, basically, trying to tell him, which is everyone else in the world, about the apocalypse, about the plasma apocalypse, about the reality behind the spaghetti monster and Cthulhu and plasma volcanoes and phantazoids and giants and stuff, right? And this is how people that don't have a similar frequency or don't vibe at that frequency, this is how they look at people like myself. And he looks around, and the other ones who saw it, who probably never would have believed it in their life, and they didn't beforehand, they're like, tentacles. Yeah, it's true. So he looks back at him, and they're like, he's like, I'm just not that stupid, guys, right? And this is the modern world we live in, represented by this guy right here. The rest of the world would just say, oh, I'm not that stupid. That's dumb. That's stupid. A plasma volcano at the center of the world? That's just dumb. That's the world that we live in. These are people's reactions whenever they're not investigating, whenever they're not taking things with a grain of salt, or researching, or I mean, they don't have to believe us. That's fine, but they're going to feel attacked. They're going to feel like that like they're being personally attacked whenever you have a group of people that come out with some information that's contrary to what they believe is real. It's paradigm shifting. It's reality shattering. So he says, what do you take me for? You think I'm an idiot? You think I believe in all this crazy stuff? Spaghetti monsters and plasma volcanoes and whatever? That's me talking. And now the store manager comes up to Ollie, who is a cool guy. I like Ollie. Store manager's a dickhead. Store manager comes up. He says, you want to lose your job? What are you guys doing back there, huh? He cracked open a beer after they had to rescue the other guy from the tentacle monster. Hey, well-deserved beer. Who cares? It's the apocalypse. Screw the job. He's only wearing the uniform because he doesn't want to be naked. Like, this no longer, jobs are out of the window. So this manager is still in manager mode, right? And he's like, you want to lose your job? Huh? And then Ollie's like, what? And this is the world that we live in too. So many people, when cataclysms and stuff happen, they'll still go about they'll still play their roles. They'll still be who they are or who they want others to think that they are based on their achievements and what uniforms they wear and stuff, right? But you'll find quickly those things are of no use in the world to come whenever you're going through cataclysms. You want to lose your job? That's also a threat that looms over many of us, just so you know, okay? You want to lose your slave job? You want to stop being a slave? How are you going to get food then, huh? When you don't have little pieces of paper with people's pictures on them, huh? not teaching kids, hey, there's things called seeds. You can put them in the ground and it grows an infinite amount of food forever. There's stuff called water that's everywhere. There's no shortage of it. They're lying. All right, so he looks up, he says, now he starts to address everyone else, which is all of you. Now this is the rise of cults. Cults abound in the world that we live in today. I even had to, I still have to be very careful. I don't want to start a cult. I don't want to be a cult leader. I have almost 100,000 people that watch my channel. That makes me nervous, honestly. Like, you know, I'm just being myself and stuff, but I realize there's people out there that may look up to me. There's people that appreciate what I do, and there's different levels of all of that. But if one is not careful and running self-diagnostics and whatnot, cults quickly start to rise, especially whenever there's fear involved, especially whenever people want and answers that they can't find the answers themselves. So they start looking for somebody to show them the way, and then they become devoted to these people. This is how they start. This is how these cults start. This guy says all these people do is just lie each other up. Now it's the blame. Now they just start talking about, this is basically YouTube, like in my communities, right? Many truth-seeking communities and stuff, this happens a lot, okay? I love all of them, but I don't like all of them, you know what I mean? Like it happens a lot, and I've been caught up in it so many different times. All these people do is lie, and he's talking to the camera right now, but he's also talking to all the people in the grocery store. They're all starting to try to get people to their cause, to their side, and this guy's like, yeah, it's a pile of garbage. I don't believe that. The manager's like, of course it's a lie. Yeah, it's a lie. It's obviously not a lie. One of the kids is dead. Tentacles actually really grabbed him, right? But because they didn't see it, because this is not their area of expertise or their area of research, then they're trying to get everyone else to say, yeah, it's a lie, without any kind of actual substance to it. It just turns into a gossip. It turns into scuttlebutt. It just turns into people just agreeing with one another for the sake of agreeing with one another so that they can feel confident in themselves, which to me is weak and a sign of weakness, spiritual weakness. I'm not talking about like physical weakness. I just mean it's a sign of spiritual and intellectual weakness when people do this. So he says it's lunacy. Now the word lunacy, where does that come from? What does being crazy have to do with the moon? Most people would say, oh, well, when it's a full moon, werewolves and, you know, people act weird and it's got an effect on us, this and that. There is that aspect to it, but also the moon that we see in the sky is a projection. It's a light. You can't land on it. You can't, it's not going to hit us or anything. It's not physical, but because it's a projection, there's a projector, which means there's a physical reality to the projection we see in the sky, which is a portion of the dome above us. If light is passing through it from the other side, it will project down into our sky, right? If that's true, the moon will open up one day. If the firmament opens up and the moon is a part of the firmament, then the moon will open up. The moon will split into two. It'll open up. Just same thing as when the firmament opens up. When the moon opens up, that's when all this crazy stuff, crazy or strange, the strangers come in from the moon. Okay, the moon is hollow, I guess you could say, on the other side because it's just a dome. It's an inverted dome, right? Anyways, my point is the real moon, the part of the firmament that's up there above our heads and blocking out the lights of the heavens, will open up one day and living creatures will come down. Spirit form and physical form will come through the actual moon. And when the atmosphere depressurizes, then all of that air and ionized gas or spirits will get sucked out and be eaten by the moon. Now, the ancient word for eat was shin, right? S-H-I-N, or shin, you could say shin, and it meant to eat, right? The ancient word for the moon is also shin. It's the eater. It's the eater of souls. All right, continuing on. This guy's like, the tentacles are coming out of the beer cans. So now they try to put people down. Instead of having a reasonable discussion, right? They just want to debate. They just want to cast insults. They just want to insist that they're right and other people are just crazy, or they just start casting name calling and stuff like that. That's not a mark of intelligence. It's not a marker of intellect or what's the word I'm looking for? It's not a marker of like wisdom or anything like that. It's just people starting to be jocks. They're backed into a corner, so they're attacking basically. Now they go back. They take this guy. They're like, oh yeah, you want to see the tentacle? Get your ass over here, right? And they go back. They go into the back. The tentacle is right there. He sees it. The tentacle then, all of a sudden, after they touch it, it just disappears. It decomposes and it turns into this soupy goo. It's ectoplasm, basically, right? So let's suppose that instead of the physical, this represents plasma, and they trapped that leg of plasma or that tentacle of plasma on the inside. It might still be plasma. It might be a little tentacle of self-contained plasma for a bit, but it will eventually dissipate once it uses up the gases that are inside of this room, and it will leave a residual leftover substance that's called ectoplasm. This is why ghosts leave behind this, gooey, sticky, yucky stuff or whatever, called ectoplasm in the Ghostbusters, at least, right? That's a type. Now, let's get back to Mrs. Carmody and the religious world. Not just Christianity, all religious, right? I'm not talking about the books that are contained within the world's religions. I love those, right? I'm not talking about the myths and the legends and the stories and the histories and stuff like that. I think they're all puzzle pieces. I'm talking about the religious indoctrination. I'm talking about having a religious mind instead of a spiritual mind. So let's look at it this way, okay? It's not picking on Christianity. It's picking on types of religious people, and it's using Christians specifically because the movie would go on forever if it had a Muslim and it had a Hindu and it had this and it had that. So here we go, right? All right. Now, this woman's in the bathroom and she's praying to her God. She says, "Let me preach your word." Like, just go preach the word. You don't need permission from God to go preach the word of God or whatever, to share information with people or whatever. Let me shine your light. So she's trying to like hype herself up, right? Let me shine your light. Now, this is twofold. There's two lights. There's a dark light and a bright light. There's a good light and a bad light. How you see those is up to you. That will depend upon your light and how your light gives a tint to all other lights that you come in contact with. And by light, I mean spirits. Okay. So this woman has a light, but is it Luciferian in nature? Some would say, or is it godly? Right? And what do those terms mean to you? That's going to mean different things to different people based on your energy. She says they can't all be bad, right? She basically is saying, I think everyone is evil and bad. And if you look at the expressions, just the expressions on her face, you can tell she's evil and bad. That's because out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. The body conforms. The body will contort to the condition of the soul. So you can tell oftentimes just by looking at somebody if they're good or bad, like, right? I can, at least. If I can save a few, even one, then my life will have counted for something. She's trying to earn her way into some sort of post-life heaven, this sort of fantasy, spiritual way of seeing the afterlife. She is afraid, as are many Christians and other people in different religions, of burning alive forever in torment in a place called hell, where you will be in the flesh, but it's some sort of spiritual flesh, and you're actually just being melted, and then your skin regenerates and you're melted again and stuff. And I'm not saying there isn't truth to some of that. But what I am saying, that's what's driving her motivation. Not because it makes her feel good to see other people happy. Not because it makes her feel good to see other people healthy, right? If she wants to be a light, then you just be a light. Lights don't need to try to be lights. They don't need to ask permission to be a light. They just are lights. And they affect other people's paths just by simply being themselves, right? My point is, if she was just a good person, if she just did what she knew was right and she lived by example and she just ate healthy and she was kind to people, like that bagger at the beginning of the story, she could have said, "Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, it's a nice day. Thank you. I appreciate that," or whatever. That would have been being a light. But instead, she tries to put out the lights. But in her mind, that's the light. You see, it's a duplicity. It's a polarity. And one will see the other as evil, and the evil will see the other as evil as well. And she's trying to like earn her way into heaven and stuff. Even, listen, I'm just going to give you my 2 cents on this. I'm a bit of a biblical scholar. Okay. I love, and I mean, I haven't done it a lot recently, but I've studied the heck out of the Old Testament, the New Testament. It's one of my favorite books to study. It has been. It's what inspired me to learn Phoenician and Paleo Hebrew and, to get into giants and all of this stuff. I have the Bible to thank for that, which really influenced my path. In the Bible, I know I'm not trying to start topics of conversation about this. I'm just saying it's very evident to me that it's clear that there is no, it's called works versus grace. Okay. And this is a huge debate amongst various churches and religious organizations, and people get mad at each other because of this all the time, which is sad. And for me, really reveals people's true colors and stuff. But, in the Bible, it says that faith is the substance of things that are hoped for and the evidence of things that are unseen, which means to have faith doesn't mean you just believe in something and you don't do anything about it. Having faith is substance. It's something that's tangible. It's something you can see. It is evident of the invisible qualities that lie within a person, which is their belief. Faith is not believing. It's completely the opposite. It's what you do about your beliefs. It's how you live your life that develops your soul and your body and acts as a guiding light to those around you, or can, right? So this other girl who's trying to be nice to her, she walks into the bathroom while this lady's praying, and the lady looks all embarrassed because she was just praying on a toilet, praying basically at the toilet. And she says, "Ma'am, I just want you to know it's okay. Being scared, I mean. And well, if you need a friend, and she's trying to be nice to this lady because she knows she was crying and stuff in the stall. She doesn't know what's going on. And this lady, in order to shine her light and show these people, right? This is a good example of how how the darkness thinks it's light. Okay. It doesn't think it's darkness. It believes it's light. She says, "I have a friend, God above. Don't you condescend me. Don't you mock me." See that look? Yeah. Real pleasant, right? I've actually experienced this many times in my life. I've had people, whenever I've walked past or whatever, I've had people say, "I'm going to pray for you." But it sounds more like a threat. I don't know. Have you guys ever had that? People do the threatening, "I'm going to pray for you" deal. That cracks me up. It's sad. It's really sad because it's just that's demonic, man. She says, "The day I need a friend like you, I'll just have myself a little squat and go to the bathroom," basically. Great. Now, this is fiction, but this happens every day. There are thousands and maybe millions of people just like this to different degrees around the world that all think that they're just righteous people. They're good people. They're good natured. They do the right thing. But when you look at their actions, when you look at their works and how they present themselves, how they talk to other people, how they treat animals or plants or the world they live in, or the condition, the state of their house, their body, all these things, it adds up to weighty evidence of who they really are on the inside. And you can see right through it. I mean, you're able to. I believe you will be able to. So this girl's like, "Oh, I can't believe she just said that," right? Because she is a good person on the inside. And this is many of us, right? When we're trying to be kind to people, trying to be nice to other people, and they take it way the wrong way, and they just slam at us, and they come at us, and they attack us, and they insist that they're just really good people. This happens a lot. Now, there's more gossip happening outside in the grocery store. This guy says, maybe they're not lies, back to the tentacle thing, right? They're delusions, whatever, right? This happens in the real world, especially with all of these different fringe theories that are happening within the various truther communities and stuff. Fine. Maybe it's not a lie. Maybe they're not telling you lies, like purposefully trying to mislead you. They're just diluted or deluded, right? Maybe they don't understand that they're out of their minds. Does that happen? I think maybe, yeah. But this is more accusations and stuff, right? This isn't trying to work together. This isn't trying to figure out the answer. This is focusing on the problem instead of the solution. The fact remains, the evidence here is flimsy, right? I don't have any evidence. This guy with the tentacles, he didn't bring the receipts. I don't see the receipts for any of this stuff. Therefore, it's lies. Therefore, it's not true. Therefore, he's deceiving all of you, right? I don't care about any of that. I'm this guy over here. He's like, hey, this isn't a courtroom, and you're doing nothing but damage, right? All this whole bring in the receipts garbage, all this whole, people saying like, oh, my favorite YouTuber thought of that first, or, how come you're not giving credit to so-and-so and the other so-and-so and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Because it's all true, okay? My words, my research, my walk, my experience in life, other people don't need to quote me, okay? They just need to know that whatever I have contributed to their lives has helped in some way, or feels right or true in some way, shape, or form. I don't need any kind of credit because I got all of it from others in my life, from my mom and my dad and my brother and my daughter and my son and strangers and bosses and nature and animals and all kinds of different places. Sometimes it's books, sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's a commercial, sometimes it's just a deep experience that I had that's so profound I can't even put it into words. Sometimes it's something stupid and lame or whatever. We've been conditioned by the system that we live in that you have to bring the receipts, that you have to always quote somebody or always put, who said that? That wasn't you that said that. That was someone else that said that. That is a left brain mentality. That is the ends justify the means. That is an insectoid, robotic mentality. Okay? True is true no matter what. Okay? Truth establishes itself. It doesn't need the approval of anyone. It doesn't need a diploma. It doesn't need a certificate. It definitely doesn't need to be put into quotes. It doesn't need any of that. True recognizes true. Okay? So something is true regardless of whether, where it came from or whatever. So I'm just like that guy. I'm like, this isn't a courtroom, buddy. All right? Like, people that vibe with my frequency, they get it, okay? They just are truth seekers. They love the truth, all right? They don't care where it came from. It's just happy to have it. Now, this woman starts preaching. Now, she gets out there and she's trying to gather everyone to their cause. The lawyer's trying to gather people to his cause. The religious lady's trying to gather people to her cause because they're not satisfied with just themselves. They need others to approve of them, to feel validated or to feel important. So she says, this has all been written. And she busts out the Bible. Revelations, chapter 15. Now, the two things I want to say. One, all these people are correct in some way, shape, or form. They all have elements of truth, like I said. This lady's right. When she says it's all been written, it has all been written, not just in the Bible, in many different religions. But also this part. This is how I know people don't really study the Bible that much. When they say revelation and they put an S on it and make it plural, it's hard for me personally. I'm just sharing my own personal thing, okay? It's very hard for me. It's difficult for me to take anything they say afterwards seriously. Like, how do I describe? Listen, it's revelation. One revelation that was given to one guy. It's not a whole bunch of revelations or anything. It's one all-encompassing revelation where they saw many things. They had many visions within this revelation, but it's just one revelation, okay? So if you are one of those people, I'm not slamming on you. I'm actually trying to help you out. It's just revelation. There is no plural to that at all, okay? So I hear people that I have in my life heard many people that claim to be biblical experts and this and that, and they just get it wrong all over the place, right? This is one of those little examples. The temple was filled with smoke. This is a quote from the Bible. Now, the temple being Mount Meru, filling with smoke, all those gases being released and all the hot air and stuff and magma releasing and stuff. From the glory of God and his power. She's starting to read from the Bible. This guy is not trying to hear it, and he's listening in. And she says, no one could enter the temple until the 7 plagues of the 7 angels were completed. I believe this is true. I believe that this will happen, that the temple, being a safe place during the apocalypse, will be a place people would like to go, but they can't. You can't physically go there until it's cleansed, until all the toxins are washed out of these caves and volcanic places or whatever, right? Obviously, magma and stuff like that needs to be flushed out. So you're going to have a lot of volcanic explosions and stuff. Now, all these different people are starting to kind of listen to her, and they don't know what to think. They don't know what's going on. And this lady's offering answers. So you have the development of cults, right? And this one guy's like, look, you got to stop now. You're scaring the children. She says they should be scared, right? Now, I want to comment on that because I was told this in court. Right, I'm going through custody all the time for my son. And in court, I've had judges say the craziest things to me that are nonsensical, that don't make any sense, that are not righteous, that are not even lawful. They just make up crap, and their rule is the law. Whatever they say is the law. They're above the law. There is a law that says that the judges are above the law. They're beyond reproach, okay? You can't take them to court. You can't, whatever they say, that's the final say-so. This one judge told me that because I dedicated my first book, Ancient Oblivion, The Plasma Apocalypse, to my son and my daughter, that I'm trying to scare them, and therefore that presents a danger to them or whatever. Now, I don't want to get too much into my personal business and my family. I don't talk about it a lot, but I'm just saying I can relate to this. My response to that was that they would not be scared. People naturally are afraid of things that they don't know about at first, but through learning and research and experience, that fear is eradicated, and only the rest of the world will be afraid when the event happens. When the darkness comes upon them, they will be afraid because they don't have the light, right? So it's not fear, it's a healthy respect, which is the way that it's written in the Bible when people talked about fearing God. Having a healthy respect, which means to look at again, which means to reconsider, which really implies to think about, right? Not to just to be willingly ignorant and, I'm not going to share anything scary with, my children. Heaven forbid. I don't want them to be afraid or whatever. No, screw that. People are teaching kids about Santa Claus and giant Easter bunnies that sneak into your house or break into your house and leave crap everywhere or take crap, or, you know what I mean? Like, that's scary, weird fantasy garbage. Okay. But what I teach people is comparative mythology. I teach people actual historic records and looking into the facts behind things, right? So if you're afraid, fine. That's just a flag. That's just a big sign telling you, hey, there's something important here. Look into it so that you're not afraid of it. It's the body's natural response to trying to help you out. All right. Anyways, let's move on. She says, there is one God, the God of the Israelites. This is not boding well. Like, if she represents somebody that's a follower of the God of the Israelites, it's not looking good, right? And he is a stern and vengeful God. That is how the God of the Israelites is portrayed in the Old Testament, right? I'm more of a Jesus lover myself, okay, as far as, types of gods and saviors and stuff. I'm more on that side of things. I think there's a huge difference between the two. And we have been mocking him for far too long. Now, if you remember, we've talked about the Tetragrammaton in ancient presentations, and I'll show you some coins and stuff where they put the Tetragrammaton on these, what looks like plasma coming out of the sky. We've been mocking God for far too long. This is a form of mockery. One day, all of you Pastafarians and stuff that think this is a joke and it's just, a little way to celebrate Halloween all year round or whatever, that's great. I love it. I think it's fun. This sounds fun to me. But there's a reality behind it that will probably scare the crap out of you, that will cause your heart to stop, that will cause people to have heart attacks and not be able to breathe because the real God takes their breath away through atmospheric depressurization, creating a vacuum on the surface world where we live. Every knee will bow. People will drop down to the earth during worldwide earthquakes. There's a very deadly, serious demeanor behind this. Now, I'm a kid at heart. I can have fun with it. I can acknowledge that's funny and that's fun and I think it's cool. I love it. But I'm also not going to be completely or willingly ignorant of the truth behind it. There is a spaghetti monster. There is a spaghetti god or whatever. There's truth to wearing metal on your head to keep it out or to keep it away or whatever. Here's an example of the Tetragrammaton in the ancient coins. This is not the sun. We've already gone over that many times. You can see the plasma coming down out of the stuff here, the ocean water rising straight up into the air. Here's another one of ancient coin during the Middle Ages. where they have this circle in the sky. This is really a dome, okay? Depends on your perspective. Some people would just see an oval. Some people, if you're right under it, will see a circle. And this, see how there's squiggly lines? There's straight lines, which is beams of light, okay? Light tends to travel in straight lines. But the squiggly ones, that's plasma. Light doesn't go like that. It goes straight. Plasma goes like that, okay? So this is plasma coming out of a hole in the sky. The face, this is the shield of Zeus up there, etc. The face of Medusa and all of that stuff, right? And they always put the tetragrammaton, Yod He Vav He, or Yahweh, or there's different pronunciations. Some people say Jehovah, and people argue amongst themselves about that. God, man, that's one of the reasons I stopped with all the religion. I was so tired of hearing people argue about the dumbest stuff. I pronounce it like this. I pronounce it like that. Well, you're going to hell. Oh yeah? Well, you're going to hell. Like, come on, man. You're all going to hell. Like it's all bad. That's not good. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry. I feel that, you know, the truth can make people feel certain ways sometimes. And I know some people out there might hear stuff like that and be like, ouch, that stung a little bit. That's not my intention. Okay? It's not my intention. My intention is just share the light. You know what I mean? All right. So now he demands blood, retribution and blood, right? Okay, Jesus didn't demand any blood or anything like that, right? All this demanding blood stuff comes from the things that happened during the apocalypse. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of wiping out of things. There's a lot of scary insectoid monstrous creatures that will go around and will try to eat people. There are also some that won't. There are some that are friendlies. There are some that are neutral. Excuse me, I got hiccups. Some that are neutral or whatever. She says, read the good book. It calls for expiation, blood. The word expiation essentially just means sacrifice, okay? As Abraham prepared to sacrifice his only son, Fopow. The chick that tried to be her friend earlier came up right in her face and just slaps the crap out of her, right? Just because we're good people doesn't mean we have to take other people's crap. I'll just say that, okay? There are times when it is better to be wise than it is to be kind, right? Being kind means doing the right thing. This, in this circumstance, in my opinion, was the right thing. It doesn't mean she's evil. It doesn't mean she's bad. Oh my God, you slapped her. Oh, you're not a good person or whatever. No. Like the whole apocalypse is a cleansing event. Anyway, let's reverse it a second. As Abraham prepared to sacrifice his only son. That wasn't Abraham's only son. They're talking about Isaac. Ishmael was born before Isaac. If I remember correctly, Abraham had another son. So she's not even telling it accurately. She's not even telling it truthfully. There was another son. His name was Ishmael. You gotta, people do this all the time. They just regurgitate church garbage that they heard somewhere, and they just pick up pieces here and there, and it's a salad bar of what I choose to believe in, instead of being honest and actually studying and learning what these particular scriptures say. All right, so she draws some blood, right? And she holds up her bloody finger. She says, another down payment, right? Her blood requires sacrifice, blood contracts, another form of cults in our very real world today. There are people that do what's called blood magic. They will harm themselves or animals or other people. And I mean, there's Christians in the world that can't wait for this to be reinstituted at the mock temple in mock Jerusalem today. Okay, it's because I don't think it's the real Jerusalem or whatever, and I definitely don't think it's the real temple. But they want people to bring back sacrifices because this is one of the signs and the omens that means Jesus will come back. That's not something you should want. They got it all mixed up, man. It's all messed up and backwards. I know a few more pennies in the jar, right? All this, my blood is important and my blood can get things done. No, man, your spirit is what gives life to your blood. Your spirit is far more powerful and more important than your fingernail or your blood or your teeth or any other body part. God, it makes me sick and it makes me sad to hear so many people falling for this blood ritual garbage that other cult leaders out there or the world across do, not just on YouTube and stuff, but anyways, now this guy is like talking about how to protect themselves. And he's like, this might be a weird question to ask, but, do you happen to have a gun in the store? And he says it just like that. He says the word gun as if, oh my, I'm so sorry. I have to speak this way, but do you happen to have a gun? He says it just like that, like very tippy-toe, walking on eggshells, like, I don't want to offend you or anything, but, do you happen to have a gun? He says it just like that. He's terrified to talk about protection. He's terrified to talk about weapons and things of that nature. Now the store manager is like, here? A gun? This isn't Los Angeles. Of course we don't have guns. That's ridiculous. 100 years ago, that it would have been ridiculous for the opposite of this situation to have happened. You guys don't have any guns. Like, that's exactly how this would have gone down. Okay, it wouldn't be like, I don't mean to judge, I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I mean, do you happen to have like a gun, anywhere? So she does. She says, this was my husband's idea. This girl busts this gun out of her purse, right? And I know there's people out there that are cringing right now that I'm even saying that word. Sad. That's so sad. She's like, this was my husband's, takes it out of her purse. She's like trying to find an excuse for having this object. That's dumb, man. That's my personal opinion. That's so sad and such a sign of the world that we live in, that people are afraid to like say that word or talk about it or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's I didn't want it. My husband made me carry it, like, good for him. Good. Okay. It's not even loaded. I don't know. I'm sorry. And then this guy's like, anyone know how to shoot it? Like, that's how terribly sad society is these days. When people have to ask, does anyone know how to shoot this gun? And they're holding it like it's a bomb, dude. They're holding it like it's going to go off. All this propaganda when I was growing up in the 80s, they were showing all these commercials of like, making up stories about children that died because they would show a commercial of their kid going into the closet and opening a shoebox and pulling out a gun and going, oh my God. And then they're like, public service announcement, little Timmy didn't have to die, but because you guys all wanted guns and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, this blows my mind. Okay. Does anybody know how to shoot it? Like, it's a trigger. It's a button. You just push it. Like, it's easy. You point at it. I mean, everyone knows how to shoot a gun. Everybody does. I don't care if you've never actually done it. Everybody knows how to do it. People are so terrified. It's insane, right? I mean, people are scared to hold knives now. Like, you got to have blunted butter knives and all this weird stuff people are coming up with. Listen, these are called tools. They're tools, and they serve purposes. They have different purposes. They serve different, actual practical reasons that people have them or whatever. Now back to the lawyer guy. He's like, you've psyched out a half dozen of my people already. And then the girl's like, your people? What kind of talk is that? Right? This happens a lot, especially on YouTube and stuff in my world. Okay. You've psyched out my people. Oh, you're tricking all my people. All my people are coming to your side now. Right? This is cults talking. This is how cults speak to each other and to you. Okay. So watch out when people start talking like that. She says, what kind of talk is that? They're people. That's all. They're not your people. They're not your followers. They're not your subscribers or whatever. They're just people out there in the world. Just because they subscribe to your channel or whatever doesn't mean they're yours. Like, what kind of dumb thinking is that? Anyway, so the lawyer's like, forget this. There's nothing out there. There's no tentacle spaghetti monster. There's no plasma volcanoes. There's no phantazoids. I'm going outside. So he takes his people and he marches outside and leads them basically to their death as they walk out into the misty fog and leave everyone else behind in the store. Now we get to one of the military guys in the store. He's wearing this patch. I wanted to zoom in on this and show this to you. So he belongs to this project called Arrowhead. Right here, you can see it says Arrowhead. It's got an arrowhead on it, but it also has what looks like an explosion of electricity from the center point, and then these lightning bolts. What does a lightning bolt have to do with an arrowhead, right? Well, we're going to find out more about the government's role in the apocalypse, specifically militaries, the government's militaries and stuff across the world in a bit. Right now, I want to talk about these locusts, these giant bugs. I love talking about giant bugs, and I love surprising people and telling them that your seafood is bugs all the time. I love that because I've always hated seafood and I never understood why until I realized they are insects. Every single one of them. They're still gigantic. But I'll come back to that. So all these little insects start landing on the glass, right? Once again, they're behind the glass, symbolically the firmament, the dome. And just on the other side of that dome are creatures out there in space. As above, so below. Just as we have animal types, so do the heavenlies. So does the fractal verse. Okay, and within the liminal spaces, or the spaces, the hallways between worlds, there are other types of creatures. There are probably a whole bunch of bugs, especially if they don't go unchecked. Gigantic ones. There's animal types. There's human types. Fractal verse travelers, and they're just on the other side. All it needs is the door to open. And this guy's like, bugs? He knows what a bug is. He doesn't have to guess. He doesn't have to say, it's a monster. No. This guy's like, bugs? Giant bugs? Oh my God. Yes, those are bugs, right? And Mrs. Carmody starts quoting the Bible. She says, they came out of the smoke. She's quoting from the book of Revelation, where it talks about locusts, huge locusts that will come up out of Mount Meru. That will come up. There'll be creatures that come up out of all the volcanoes, many of them across the world, in cavernous systems and openings and stuff. Bugs are one of them, right? Especially flying creatures and stuff. They could just fly up there and live in caves and stuff like that. Yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of giant bugs that are going to come up out of caves and stuff. And it says this in the Bible. This is one of the prophecies in the book of Revelation, that there are these strange looking locust type grasshoppers that look like they're mutated or something, that sting people. And that's exactly what we see here in the movie. And unto them, these locusts, was given the power, even as the scorpions of the earth have power. Yes, you can imagine how some bugs on a small scale right now can't bite you, or don't really harm you, or you don't really feel it. Like a little tiny fly, like a little pea fly or a little house fly, that doesn't really hurt, but they do affect you. They do try to harm you just by their natural way that they live their lives. Now let a big old horse fly land on you, and it will throw up, and it'll feel like it's stinging the crap out of you as pukes acid all over you or bites you or whatever. Now imagine a bigger fly, even larger than that and bigger than that, right? They become damn dangerous when they get big enough. So they're all checking them out, reaching out to touch them and stuff. And all these bugs, all the people bring their light up to the window and they hold it close, and the bugs get closer and closer, and then more and more start landing on them until larger phantazoids come in and swoop down and eat them, right? Just as we have, a food pyramid or whatever, so does the heavenlies, so does the underworld. Be careful. If you're around, giant bugs in the apocalypse, I take a lot of notes for surviving the apocalypse from movies. Just because something's not harming you doesn't mean that it doesn't have a predator out there that will show up and harm it. Now, one of these Revelation locusts lands on Mrs. Carmody, and it crawls up her chest, and its little scorpion tail comes out, or lobster tail comes out. And she just gives up, and she puts her hands up, and she says, my life for you, your will be done. Now what happens here is she changes her energy very quickly. This bug saw her energy. This is what I call aura vision. Okay, this bug saw her energy. A lot of these bugs and creatures from the heavenlies and from the underworld, they tend, according to the legends and stuff, they tend to have psychic abilities. They tend to have very strong spirits and live for a very long time and grow to gigantic sizes. And therefore, they can feel better what other people's spirits are. There have been instances in antiquity, for example, in ancient China, the emperor had this weird phantazoid devil dog creature that posted up in the palace, and its main purpose was to sense the aura of people that would come near to the emperor. And if it sensed a bad person, it would attack it and kill it. That's also how they determined the new emperor. They would bring up the potential new emperor in front of this otherworldly heavenly animal, and it would go up to them and sense them. And if it sensed they had bad energy, it would kill them. Anyways, so that's what this is happening. Now, she just lets go. Okay. She just says, I am not even against you. I'm with you. Do whatever you got to do. I support that. And she's changing her energy very quickly, and that little bug flies away. Now, the other ones who are not psychotic and cult members and stuff, they're in the back and they're talking about what should they do, because there's all these little factions that are grouping up within the grocery store. They say the flakier people get, the better that crazy lady's going to look. And then she says, no way, there's no way anyone's going to follow her. It's obvious that she's nuts. I said this all the time about various individuals that I know are cult leaders. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way these cult leaders are going to have all these followers. And then bam, they do. This guy says, look, a few people. And then he's like, no, there's 4 already listening to this crazy lady. She's preaching to him right now. By noon, she'll have 4 more subscribers or whatever. By tomorrow night, when those things come back, she'll have a whole congregation. It's a religious fervor, man. People feeding off of each other's energy and people validating one another's, feelings or existence or whatever it may be. And then we can start worrying about who she's going to sacrifice to make it all better, right? When they start trying to turn and sway their audience or incite the crowd to action. Whoo, buddy, watch out. She says, I can't accept that. People are basically decent. They're good. Now, if you're good, this is projection on your part, okay? It's not reasonable for me. I like to consider myself a good person, okay? Whether I am or not, we'll find out. But I strive for goodness, okay? When you have goodness inside of you, you tend to just think that's normal and think that everyone is like you and everyone wishes the best and wish everyone's, basically good people. That's just projection, okay? Just as evil people project their evil onto others, good people tend to project their goodness onto others too. It's not wise. It's not balanced. My God, David, we're a civilized society. Here's that we crap. Like, we are not, okay? I consider myself to be a civilized person, but I don't even like the word civilized. I'd rather be a savage compared to civilized in the world as it is today. He says, yeah, sure, as long as machines are working and you can dial 911, yeah, sure, we're civilized then. It's not civilization, it's slavery. It's all being controlled. Every single person in the world is being controlled. Wow, I like that you guys are hitting the little hearts and 100s and stuff in the chat. I just saw that. That was cool. Yeah, as long as all of the crazy zoo of humanity is being controlled and they're being kept in check by the leaders and stuff, once all that stuff's gone, people are going to become animalistic. People are going to be savages. People are going to lose control and be dangerous because each individual out there, if there was no law or spells or whatever to keep them in check, they would be dangerous. But you take those things away and you'll see how primitive they get. If you scare people badly enough, they say, you can get them to do anything. Right? They'll turn to whoever promises a solution, right? So this is how you can recognize the difference between like people being genuine and people who are cult leaders on the rise. Hey, who is that in the chat? Nahokai just subscribed to my channel. Welcome, Nahokai. This is how you can tell. It's something you can look for. Is when people are just really promoting a lot of aggression and fear and negativity and putting people down and all this type of stuff. These are indicators of who it is. Like, should you follow that person or learn from them or whatever? Be careful, man, because no matter what you learn, even if let's just say that there is cult leaders out there, and I'm not talking about any one in particular, there's a bunch. There's so many cults in this world today, across the world. There's so many, it's insane. Because I've heard people say, well, I don't pay attention to all that bad stuff. I just, this particular person that I like or that I look up to or whatever, I just listen to the good stuff and they have got some good information or whatever. Listen, that information is not theirs. It can be found anywhere. There's that information exists all in many places across the world. It's like, if someone gave you a plate of spaghetti, because I'm thinking of the spaghetti monster, and they just doused it with poison or something. And you're like, yeah, but I'm going to look for the little pieces that don't have poison on them. Like, you're still eventually going to ingest some of it, right? What you're doing right now by watching my channel is you're eating. You're having a meal. You're consuming. You're taking me, my energy, my words, my vocabulary, my mannerisms, the way I look, all the stuff that you're seeing and everything. You're taking it into yourself. You're consuming it. It's like having a meal. It's a spiritual, energetic meal that you're having. I don't wish this for any of you good people out there. That's why if I ever have a bad video, I usually just take it down because I feel bad. I don't want to share poison with people, not in any way, shape, or form. Usually. Anyways, let's continue on. I'm like rambling. They'll turn to whoever promises them a solution. As a species, so she asks Ollie. She's like, you got to support me. He's like, nah, as a species, we're fundamentally insane. End of story. Forget it. Now, they need some medicine, so they're going to go next door to the pharmacy, right? And they get some weapons. Good idea. The other group didn't take any weapons at all. They just walked out. They get some weapons. They walk over to the pharmacy right next door. They hear some growling and stuff. There's phantazoids in the mix, and they make it there safely. So they go into the pharmacy, and you'll see this a lot too, this whole pharmacy deal popping up in movies. They get into the pharmacy, and they're like, penicillin, look for penicillin, look for Vicodin, look for, painkillers or whatever. But penicillin is a key one. Listen, in the world to come, there's going to be diseases and sicknesses, and things will get infected if you get cut. There'll be a lot of funguses that'll be growing in swampy types of environments. You would do well to learn how to make penicillin. Okay. It's not a difficult drug to make. Okay. And I'm not going to tell you how. I'm not going to give you advice or anything, but I could tell you I looked it up. And I know how to make it. So it's very easy. Okay. All it takes is some stuff that's rotting. Okay. Anyways, look it up and go figure it out for yourself, because that would be an important skill to be able to have, especially if your loved one gets a big scratch on their arm or something crazy. And especially if your skin is healing up over it real quickly. You know what I mean? You got to treat that fast. Anyways, penicillin, boom. Good idea. So they look up, right? They look up and they see that there's these huge sticky spider webs everywhere. Jennifer, Muppet Baby 99, welcome to my channel. So these people are caught in these spider webs and all these dead people. And there's this one guy. This guy was a military guy, and he's stuck in all these spider webs, and he's like, I'm sorry. And they're trying to get these spider webs off. I wouldn't touch this dude. If this happens to you in the apocalypse, I don't care. That's it. You gotta let that person go. Okay. Don't try to help. None of that, because you're going to get hurt. You're going to get infected. Spiders are going to grow in your body next. Okay. Don't touch any of that. Stay away. This is why in the Old Testament, they separated the clean from the unclean, and they made damn sure the unclean was outside the city. Get away until you prove that you're clean. This dude is unclean, okay? And then his eyes roll back in his head, and he's basically out of his mind, and he's like, it's our fault. And he's talking about how the military brought the apocalypse upon the world. And he starts going, I can feel them. I can feel them. And it's like, you could see the bugs are starting to like crawl around like in his skin and stuff. And then pretty soon, like, he starts getting these welts, and all these insects are inside of him, incubating his body. And then the spiders start popping out of his face and stuff. And this is what I say. This is what I mean when I say don't touch the phantazoids. Don't pet the phantazoids. Okay. Yes, there are cryptids. Yes, there are monsters. Not all of them are evil. Some people are going to see a unicorn or whatever, and that's just one that people tend to like. And they're going to go, oh, come here. And they have this mentality that nature is not going to harm them, right? They're not going to protect themselves. You should stay away. You don't know what kind of diseases heavenly creatures have, or inner earth, hollow earth creatures, or insects or whatever. This is why they had bestiaries during the Middle Ages, okay? They wrote down, they recorded, they studied, they learned, they researched about these animals before just walking up to it and trying to take a selfie, or, not that that will be possible, but don't pet phantazoids. Stay away. Some of them will eat you. Some of them will impregnate you. They will sting you and inject you with their babies and eggs, and you will become an incubator. That's a terrible way to die, especially during a time when you can't die. When your cellular regeneration is off the charts and your body won't allow you to even die. The Bible says this, and the Quran highly suggests that there will be a time when people can't die and they will wish that they could. Stay away from fantazoids until, right, learn about them. Okay, once you've had some knowledge, maybe you could get close. I don't know, eventually, but you better stay away. Okay, I'm telling you, if you're in my group, you're not going to be in my group if you even go touch some weird heavenly creature, and you're not coming back. You're out. Okay. And I mean in extreme form. You're gone from my group. Don't come near me. Because I hate bugs. Okay? Like, if you couldn't tell, this creeps me out. Arachnophobia creeps me out. This scene creeps me out. Bugs living. Oh, don't even get me. You don't even want to know. I mean, think about these two concepts. Parasites, which live in abundance within some people's bodies, and the sudden introduction of gigantism. Just food for thought, okay? It's a creepy, disgusting thing to think about. Anyways, gigantic spiders. Everyone's freaking out. This guy falls over. Boom, all the baby spiders bust out of this dude's body. There's another gigantic spider right here. Many of these are, what do they call them? Arthropods, right? So it's not actually a spider. It doesn't have to be an arachnid. It's an arthropod. It's got an exoskeleton. This is basically, things start to grow in monstrous form and fashion whenever they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So this could be a spider. It could also be a crab. And giant crabs are definitely a theme throughout many movies and many sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like that. Aquatic creatures can grow to large sizes too. When you increase the buoyancy in this world and you add things like oxygen and stuff, arthropods breathe through their exoskeletal skin structure, and their size is directly proportional to how much oxygen they're breathing. So if we have a great oxidation event, I don't know, the earth releasing lots of gases or whatever, bugs and other things will grow to gigantic sizes. Now, I wanted to show you the thing's teeth. Where was that thing's teeth? Oh, I thought I took a picture of that fish. Oh yeah, see this fish? This fish is real, okay? It's got human-looking teeth. Let me zoom in on this. I know it's going to creep some people out, but you need to know this, okay? See those? It's got human-looking teeth on it, right? And it's not just this one fish. There's many just like this. This spider also has human-looking teeth. Let's see. Can I zoom in on that? Well, you can kind of see it right here, okay? This isn't just done for visual effect. There is a reality to this. Here's a theory, okay? I mean, this is all theory, right? But here's an extra one for you to chew on. Why do these spiders in the movie look like they have human teeth? I can't accept that I don't like to believe that it's just, if they have human teeth, then it'll look scarier. No, it's mutation, okay? What it could be is that there are little creatures that get into the human body, just like they did with that military guy, and they grow in the body. This is what camel spiders do. Okay, I don't know if you guys know what a camel spider is. It's not a camel and it's not a spider. Okay, it's a bug. It's a giant bug. But a camel spider will crawl up the legs of a camel and it will poison it, and it'll lay its babies inside the belly of the camel. When I was in the Middle East in the Marine Corps, I saw plenty of dead camels on the side of the road on my way to Kuwait City, and from, many of them from camel spider bites, I'm sure. And I saw camel spiders too. But anyways, my point is, if something went into a human body, and let's say the human's body was being eaten and it just had a head, it was decapitated or something, right? It could grow from within the head. And this is portrayed on John Carpenter's The Thing. This is the spider head. Okay, I don't know if you guys ever saw this movie or whatever. It's a great horror movie, but there's basically a real human head that has mutated. There's some sort of pathogen or creature or insect or something that grows out of this head, this upside down head, and it just walks around. So that would give it, if it incorporates through symbiosis the head into its own little structure and body, then it could have human teeth, right? There's nothing that's impossible in the world that we live in. And when you take into consideration atmospheric changes and the introduction of radioactivity on a massive worldwide scale and stuff, there's a lot of mutations that have occurred in the past and will occur again. Whew. Let's see. So the cult leader lady is like, what will end it? Let me hear it. What will end all of our pain? Expiation. So this is another thing that cults do. They get you to say stuff. Okay? Instead of the leader just talking and saying stuff and sharing their thoughts and their research or whatever, they get you to say things blindly without you doing any research. They just have you quoting them. This happens in churches all the time. Okay, this happens in other places all the time. They have these little catchphrases, and they get people to just they get you agreeing. They get you to be a part of it, and some people love this. Okay, this guy right here, he hated this lady 10 minutes ago, and now all of a sudden he's in there because of the monsters and the spiders and stuff. He's like, expiation, fuck these spiders. Like, excuse my language, but sometimes it's funny to curse. But damn, I get it. I get why he wants the expiation. He wants human sacrifice because he just saw spiders pop out of that dude's body and all that stuff. Hell yeah, I get it. Okay. But anyways, my point is this cults can quickly rise. This guy's like, welcome to Sesame Street, boys and girls. The world is nuts. This guy's like, hallelujah, hallelujah, which is funny because most people don't even know what hallelujah actually even means. And then this girl's like, it hasn't even been 2 days. We've been here for 2 days. And already the world is turned upside down. Already the cults abound. Already people are acting crazy and just doing the weirdest of things and talking about human sacrifice and stuff. Not even 2 days. And he says, that's right. He said it was their fault, right? And then they remember that there's another military guy, right? Because the spider military guy said it was their fault. The apocalypse was their fault. So they go to the other military guy and they're like, hey, what's going on with this mist? He's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about it. And then the zealous cult group hears this and they catch him and they pull him to the Mrs. Carmody and they're like, it was them that brung down the wrath upon us. It was them. Tell them about the Arrowhead Project and all that secret shit up on the mountain. And he's like, okay. Well, they thought there was these other dimensions, like other worlds all around us, and how they wanted to try and make a window so they could look through it and see these other worlds that are around us. Now, this is the truth in the movies. From my perspective, I believe there are other worlds around us. I believe that outside of the firmament, which is the window of our world, and this is probably why people make trips to Antarctica and stuff like that, to try to like thin out the firmament and carve it out or whatever and make it thin enough so they can see through it or pass information through it or something along those lines, right? But I believe there are other worlds on our peripheral and that there is an inner world, hollow world, but beneath us that leads to other worlds that are connected to other worlds. And I believe that there are many other worlds out there above us in the cosmos or the heavens or whatever. I find that man, I'm stuttering. That seems reasonable to me. So that people are trying to create these windows into these other dimensions. Now, when I hear the word dimension, I think size. I don't think some ghostly dimension or whatever. I like that. But to me, size is more practical because dimension implies size. A larger size, the macrocosm way up there above us, where everything's much bigger, conditions exist out there in the heavens to allow for gigantic growth, just as they do on the inside world. Macrocosms, mesocosms, and microcosms. And he's like, they wanted to create these windows to see what was on the other side. And she says, well, maybe your window turned into a doorway, right? Which it has. If you look up the different projects, somebody sent me a video the other day of the moon emitting this huge, what looked like a lightning bolt. And I immediately thought of Project Moonblink, which most people don't know about. There was a NASA government-sponsored project to document strange, weird electrical anomalies, lights on the moon, domes on the moon, all kinds of stuff. Some of the more popular ones are Project High Jump, Was there one called Looking Glass? I can't remember. I want to say there's Project Looking Glass. High Jump and freaking all these different government ones. I can't remember because I'm trying to focus on the movie. But the government basically has shot at the dome with nuclear missiles, right? Testing out electromagnetic pulses high up in the atmosphere near the Kármán line and stuff. This happens a lot. And people are going to Antarctica all the time. Why? If it's a desert nothingness, just frozen tundra, why set up shop? Why we want to study cold. No, I don't buy that. You guys buy that? They want to study the cold? So they set up little mini cities in Antarctica to study cold. No, man, you can replicate cold conditions anywhere on Earth with technology and stuff. You don't need to go all the way out to a frozen wasteland that's super dangerous or whatever. There's different reasons why they're out there on the edge of the world, okay? And it's got a lot to do with aliens and phantazoids and all the stuff we've been talking about, the sleeping gods and Cthulhu and all that. He's like, no, it wasn't me. It was the scientists. It wasn't me, right? This is what happens whenever the blame comes around. All these people that work for the government or work for NASA or whatever, they all throw up their hands. They'll say, well, no, I report to someone else. Yeah, well, I report to someone else too. No, take accountability. I took accountability when I was in the Marine Corps. I didn't just say, oh, I'm just following orders. I felt bad about many of the things that I was doing and supporting and being a part of. I made bombs. That was my job. I was aviation ordnance, 6541. And I made missiles and bombs and rockets and chaff and flares and 50 cals and all the stuff that were being used to take life. I hated it. And I know I contributed. Okay. So I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just admitting. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I feel bad, you know? But some people don't. They don't feel bad. They'll say, well, it wasn't me. I was told to do that. I was just taking orders. That's a robot mentality. That's an insectoid mentality. That's a reptilian mentality. So she says, feed him to the beast. Now all of a sudden they're feeding people to the beast. Fantastic beasts and where to find them. Well, they'll find you. Don't worry about where to find them. Let the abomination smell his blood. Yeah, this sounds like a happy-go-lucky, good vibe, right? Like, we're called the good vibe tribe. We don't talk like that. Like, I don't encourage you guys to either. But you know what I mean? There's clearly a line drawn between bad people and good people. Is my chat on this side? I don't know. I like the people in my chat. All right, so they pick him up. They're definitely going to sacrifice him. They try to toss him out of the grocery store. He's on the other side. He turns around, giant crab monster. Okay? I don't know what it is. Too foggy. It's a fog monster. You'll see these a lot in the movies. It's a phantazoid. It clearly looks like it's exoskeletal in nature. I mean, you could really study it. You could break it down. You could figure out its limbs, how it walks, how it moves, what it probably eats and stuff. The more you learn about it, the less scary it will be. Especially also to all those people who are like, oh my God, monsters in the apocalypse? Oh, I'm so terrified. Well, what if I told you you would have superpowers if you survive? Okay? You'll have super strength and you'll be able to just grab this guy by his little pincher and toss him a mile away or whatever. I'm sort of cartoonifying the reality myself, but that's what I'm saying. If you study, there's always good news to balance out the bad news. There will be people that have super strength and whatnot, which are the survivors that go into this world. And the people born in that world are going to look to you to take care of these things. So, you know, learning entomology and things of that nature might actually help you out in the modern. Anyways, so this crab monster dude picks up the guy, tosses him, and everyone wants to leave. So this lady, Mrs. Carmody, she's blocking the entrance. She says, haven't I shown that I am his vessel? Now, this is a savior complex. This also happens with cults, so be careful, okay? When they start really hyping themselves up and they start saying, see, I told you so, I said this, I predicted this, I knew this, this and that. Be careful. It gets dangerous because that will go to their head quite quickly. What's the matter with you? And then she takes a big swig of milk. How many people have noticed that evil people in the movies drink milk way too much? Way too often? Why is she taking a big old drink of milk? Of all the things she could be drinking. You know what I mean? This is in Westworld. This is in Clockwork Orange. This is in all these different shows. There's good reason for it. Like I said, we can figure out why if we put the context together, which is the different scenes from the movie, which are images, which convey messages individually, and together it's one giant message. So we have an evil woman that thinks she's good, that's drinking a glass of milk or whatever, and she says, it is these people who brought this upon us. They, people who refuse to bend to the will of God. Now, when she says God, she means her in this context. And there are many people like this in the world. Their God is themselves. They project themselves onto an invisible entity, a fictitious creation called God. And their God, just conveniently, is just like they are, right? They have created their own God in their own image, in their own minds. And so these people refuse to bend to her will, not to God's will. Dude, I mean, I don't want to get too deep. My God is omnipotent and omnipresent and omni-everything. My God is everything. Good, bad, ugly, and everywhere in between. That's me. That's my spiritual outlook or whatever. So there is, anyways, I don't want to get too, let's just continue on. So she goes, sinners and pride, right? These people are all sinners. Now, let me just go back to the Bible. Sin is not something you're born with. It's not a disease. It's not, and this is me, okay? I'm sharing me, okay? I'm not trying to tell you the way it absolutely is. I'm saying this is my research based on a lot of years of researching, okay? And other things too. But sin is not, babies are not sinful, okay? People are not born sinful or whatever. They're not born evil. They're not born bad. You might, I don't know, it might be possible, I guess, but I can't believe that it's just absolute across the board. Sin, the definition of it is to decide, it's a decision a person makes to do something they know is wrong instead of doing what they think is right. They deviate from a course of righteousness, and that is an action. And that's just me, okay? Not here to argue, I'm not telling you I'm right. I'm not telling you that is the way that it is. I'm saying that's my perspective, okay? Sinners in pride. Now notice the actual sinners are the ones casting stones. They're the ones, and they do this. They project all the time. Whatever they have going on deep down inside of them, they will project that onto the other side, which are the good people. And they will try to make them feel bad, especially because those of us who are good actually tend to have feelings as opposed to the rest. Haughty. And then you got some people that just start doing this. I don't know what to do with my hands. And they're just like, yes, yes, hallelujah. Oh, yes, or whatever. Like they're just, it becomes a religious fervor. They probably start speaking in tongues in a minute. They mock our humility. They're not, what's the damn word? Humility? Have some humility. Humbleness. They're not humble at all. And they say, they mock our humility. Yeah, I'm mocking your humility because you're not humble. Your humility is a joke. They mock our piousness. You're not pious. You're not righteous. You're not right loving, right doing. Your actions are not right. You've strayed the course. You're in error. Right? Those who are in error. They piss on us and laugh. It's from them that the blood of human sacrifice must come. Wow, that escalated quickly. Right? Now all the really holy good people holding knives and drinking milk are pointing them at the other side and saying, we must now perform human sacrifice on you. The blood of expiation. This dude's ready. He doesn't want to face the spiders, dude. He's all about the expiation. Then the butcher, who already stabbed the military kid, he comes out with his knife, and the woman's like, we want the boy. So the little boy, the main character's little boy, like 9-year-old or whatever, she's like, grab him. Now, where did that come from? Now she wants the boy. She's drinking milk. She's talking about human sacrifice. Now she's rallying up her audience and telling them that they all need to get the little boy and the whore too, she says. Doesn't it just look like a kind individual full of Jesus in their heart? Get out of here. Kill them all. See how quickly this turns? And then all of the people following her, they're already committed. Okay. It's already past the point of no return. They're not going to be like, wait a minute, like, kill them all. What do you mean? No way. They've already committed crimes and stuff. They have to go all in now. Unfortunately for them, Ollie does know how to shoot a weapon. So he busts out his weapon and he takes out Mrs. Carmody, who immediately falls to the floor. This guy's like, thank you, Ollie. And Ollie makes this comment like, oh, if there was any other way, I wouldn't have done it. He's like, yeah, I know. That's why I said thank you, right? And then the butcher dropped his knife, and then this other dude dropped his knives, and everybody dropped their little knives or whatever because somebody brought a bigger weapon, right? Read through the lines if you like. Now they're like, we got to get out of here. We have to get out of the store. So they venture out to try to get to this guy's 4-wheel drive car. When they're out in the fog, Ollie's with them. Unfortunately, a giant crab monster comes right out, yoinks him up into the sky, eats him. A giant spider jumps out. Also, they're being chased by all the phantazoids and stuff. They finally make it to the car, turn on the floodlights, boom, and they're leaving. Driving right past the real monsters. All these people. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Listen, I can't wait for the apocalypse. I would rather personally leave all of these supermarket consumers behind and take my chances with gigantic crabs and bugs and spiders and whatnot, hopefully having superpowers myself, I would rather leave this version of reality and go live in a world that is dangerous, actually dangerous, where you have to survive, just like they did. All the real monsters in this movie were not in the fog. They were not in the mist. They were in the grocery store. Think about that. That's the world that we live in. So all the people are like, I don't want the apocalypse to happen. I'm not ready. And I like my TV and I like this and that. That's fine. That's you. That's not me though. And I can't wait. If I had the glove of Thanos, it'd be done. Okay. Because the people of this world to me are the fog monsters. They're the mist monsters. The people are backwards, upside down, base, vile, and messed up. So I'd rather actually I'd rather have the reality. I'd rather actually put a real monster in front of me and I know what I'm dealing with. Not clowns that wear masks and guises and fake fronts and stuff like that. Screw that. I'd rather fight a real, live, actual monster. So they get in their car, they're driving out through the fog, taking off. Hopefully they'll get to the end of the fog. Unfortunately, there is no end to the fog, and the monsters just get bigger and bigger and bigger. This huge behemoth style monster walks across their path. It's got all these little other things growing off of it, probably. Gigantic bug looking deal walks across the road in the fog, and they run out of gas. At the very end, they run out of gas. So they just look at each other and they're like, man, there's nothing left to do except for to use that gun. And he's like, well, we only got 4 bullets left. She says, but there's 5 of us. Like, that's a problem. I'm not doing that. I don't care. Okay. Unless I have spiders growing in my body. That's a different story. Okay. But, there's only 4 bullets. There's 5 of them, including his own son in the car. Right. So this is the only option they feel that they have left. Huge point to make, okay? And since we've been talking about the Bible this whole time, using it as an example, it talks about those who stay the course until the end, those people will be saved. Those people who hold on. And that's my message to you, which is really self-talk for myself, okay? Hold on. Don't give up. Don't give in. Because right when you do, the fog will lift, the sky will clear, the good guys will show up, things will change and things will get better. Don't give up in this crazy monster-filled world that we live in and feel like you have to end it all. You got to hold on a little tiny bit longer, because if you do, this will happen. Instead of watching loved ones die and whatnot, you guys hold on by your fingernails if you have to. You push forward, you push through it, and just like what happens to him immediately after everyone in that car but him dies, he looks into the fog expecting to see more bad news, and the cavalry shows up. The good guys, symbolically speaking. This lady actually left the store earlier in the story, and she made it, actually, because she wanted to go protect her family. So the fog clears out, the military comes in, people are battling phantazoids, the phantazoids are all starting to die off, and this guy wishes that he had bought extra bullets, basically. And because he had to kill everyone in that car. So I know that's a sad ending, and that's a Stephen King typical sad ending, but the good news behind that is the moral of the story. Don't give up. Push through. Keep going, okay? Give it your best. Give it 110% all the way throughout your life, and see what's around the next corner, because you don't know. You don't know. And I have to believe that things will change. I have to believe personally that things will be different. There has to be equality. There has to be a balance in the messed up world that we live in. Although I'm in a supermarket right now with cult members and monsters in human form and vampires and stuff like that, things have to change. They're bound to change due to the laws of cycles and rhythms. What goes away will come back. What goes up will come down. And that pendulum will come back your way. And when it does, it'll favor you. And I believe that is the end of our presentation for today. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate all you guys. Check out my website, JayDreamerZ.com, and my books, the Ancient Oblivion series on Amazon. Until next time, I'm JayDreamer saying good vibes and goodbye.